Welcome everybody to the weekly Quantum World Detangled, Season 1, Episode 4. It's been a month, and I'm here with my good friend Denise.
Hi everyone, Denise Ruffner from Cambridge Quantum Computing. I'm coming to you from Pasadena, California. And Tommaso?
Hi, good morning everyone. Tommaso from Entropica, calling you all from Singapore.
And myself, André König, CEO of Interference Advisor, back by popular demand on my balcony. You get the sunset over Miami Beach. And for those of you that have watched us before, you might have noticed the jingle in the intro to our videos. That audio file is called Busy Large Restaurant. And I don't know when we'll be back at a busy large restaurant soon, but Miami officially opened yesterday, and restaurants will open next week, Wednesday. I have my first reservation. Very excited about that.
Yeah.
We will make some noise. And I think, Denise, you've already been to a restaurant.
No, but I got my hair done today.
You got your hair done. Nice.
I'm very excited. It was out in my backyard. It wasn't, Los Angeles County hasn't opened up, and I don't think it's going to open up for a while. So you get very good at calling people up and begging, please come to my backyard, please, please, please. So it was nice.
They did a great job.
So thank you.
They really did a great job.
It's been pretty bad lately.
Can't compete with you in the hair department, Tommaso, and I know it's your own work sitting at home.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, with that, let's look at some quantum news.
I just noticed last night, and I think we all saw the press release on Microsoft Azure Quantum Computing that they're
Difficult word.
I know, say that fast 3 times, that they're starting a preview for customers. They also have a newsletter that you can sign up for. So everybody Google Microsoft Quantum Computing and sign up for the newsletter. I'm sure it will be really interesting, and I mean that sincerely. I always like to get good newsletters. The second thing I want to mention is that the Quantum Tech Conference, which was due to happen in London on June 15th to the 19th, is going to be virtual, and it's free to register. So I want to just recommend everybody to go to it's Quantum Tech London 2020. Go to the website and register for the conference. There's going to be some good talks. I think CQC is going to present, which always makes me happy, but I'm also looking forward to hearing what the rest of the ecosystem is talking about.
And between Denise and I, we monitor all the newsletters, websites, books, conferences globally within Quantum. So if anybody ever needs a good source of information, feel free to reach out to us. Tommaso monitors the science, and he works and lives and dreams the science. I think you have another paper for us this week.
Sure. Let me share it with you guys.
All right, Denise, are we getting 1 paper, 4 papers? Do you want to bet some money?
Only one.
Oh.
Yeah. Can you see it?
It's loading.
It's loading, right?
There
we are.
is.
Trapped Ion Quantum Computing turns 25. A birthday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was on Nature Reviews Physics a couple of days ago. I think it's quite exciting that one of the best technologies for quantum computing is already 25. So the original paper, the original idea from Ignacio Sirac and Peter Zoller was proposed in 1995, as you can see here, quantum computations with cold trapped ions. And I think it's really exciting because in science, you have proposals all the time. They don't necessarily, or usually they don't follow through. But here we have, in a reasonably short amount of time, a clear proposal, which was followed by an experimental implementation on the same year, actually, by Chris Monroe's group, also in 1995. And today we start to see the technology being commercialized. It's beautiful because this all happened in our lifetime. It was very fast, it was very clear, very streamlined. And I think it's something to celebrate this week. So this is the paper for you guys.
I didn't know that trapped ions was the first one. I always thought the Feynman was the first official birth of quantum computing. So that is
Well, so the original idea is usually attributed to Feynman, the idea of computing using a quantum system. This specifically is a proposal for a physical and practical implementation of a quantum computer. So there's a little bit of a difference there.
And I'd have to talk about how Charles Bennett from IBM maybe played a role in that as well. But I think that's an argument for another time. I'm also thinking that maybe it's time we have a trapped ion guest on our podcast.
Oh,
so let's talk about that. I think that might be interesting, and we can celebrate
that would be fun.
the 25th birthday. So that might be fun. Tommaso, that's a great paper.
And I'm curious. 25 years. Not sure if you remember that, but what's kind of your first memory of quantum computing beyond just casually hearing about it?
Good question. It was not 25 years ago, but so when I studied physics in Italy, and I studied, fun enough, environmental physics. So I wasn't studying quantum physics or anything like that. But the professor I was working with during my master thesis, he was, maybe you can call him a bit of a visionary, because he was thinking how we can use, in this case, quantum computing to simulate difficult equations in fluid dynamics, which is something that now, after all these years, people are starting to talk about again. But at the beginning, nobody even mentioned something like that. It was the very beginning of the D-wave trajectory, by the way. It was the only data point we had at the time. So it was in 2000, it was a while ago. It was 2007, 2008 for me.
Interesting. I remember when I got into quantum computing, which is only 4 years ago, something that I just really didn't understand was gates. And I was Googling quantum gates back then, but there was no Wikipedia page. I literally couldn't find any explanation on it. And that was a strange concept. And it comes from classical computing, right? Logic, Boolean gates, and they seem to work well. But do you know any reason or history why we have the same kind of approach that we have in quantum in terms of setting up circuits with gates?
Okay, so this is a great question, and stop me when I start to talk too much about that. So the circuit-based model of quantum computation is not the only one we have. Another one which I personally love and I spent a few years working on is called measurement-based quantum computing, where you think about the computation completely differently or very differently. But the important point to make is that both models are universal. So what you're actually interested in is to have a universal model to describe a quantum computation, which means that using that model, you can describe any quantum computation you want. And the gate-based model just happens to be, I guess, very intuitive. It's based on the same, at least conceptually, is very close to the Boolean logic or to the classical computing model, so people can grasp it quite easily. And it's also fairly efficient to visualize graphically, which especially at the beginning was very useful. And when it comes to ion types of superconducting quantum computers, the other important point is that you have a way to actually implement these gates physically, which is another key.
Makes sense. I think we'll need to do a spin-off of our weekly Quantum World Detangled to talk about some of these things in a little bit more detail.
I learned about quantum computing at IBM. So I was at IBM for 18 years. And as you know, right, IBM publishes the most patents every year of any company. And so along the way, I started hearing these snippets that IBM Research was doing something called quantum. And I was always very curious about it and watched it over the years.
So when was the first time for you? Do you remember when the first time was that you?
15 years ago.
Wow.
Just hearing snippets and going, what is that? And trying to figure it out, and just being very interested. So it's been around.
Nice. And now you sell quantum products and services and solutions. And I know you've been very busy this week. Any interesting tidbits on the business front of the quantum world for us?
Yeah, so I'm going to try to present a slide, and let's see if I can make this happen, because Tommaso makes it look so easy. And let's get the slide.
beautiful.
Can you see it?
Yes.
So very interesting. CQC has had a couple announcements over the past month. And what happened in the past week, they kind of exploded and we got a ton of phone calls. So I'm going to start first with quantum NLP. And we first announced it doing NLP on a quantum computer, actually an IBM quantum computer on a Medium blog. And then we later followed it up with actually a couple papers on Archive. And then for those of you that want to see and hear it explained by the master himself, Professor Bob Cook, we just published an MIT category seminar and an interview on YouTube. I will put all those links with the podcast so you can get the links. I really encourage you to listen to any of these videos. Bob Cook is a character. He explains things beautifully, and he talks about how NLP with a quantum computer is moving from word recognition to sentence recognition. So it's very important, an amazing number of phone calls about it from all over the world, all different industries. So that's something to be aware of as kind of a new area in quantum computing.
And new industries as well, right? I'll push you a little bit on that because I know you can't say too much, but I think in industries that you haven't necessarily seen in the past.
That's true. That's true. And it's amazing that people just call you up and say, I want this. So a lot of really great interest here. The second area is Business Wire picked up a press release from Total, the French oil company, that they're exploring carbon capture, utilization, and storage in a partnership with Cambridge Quantum Computing. And it's a multi-year partnership. And we've been really excited about this. We've been really excited about doing carbon capture work. And I think the world is very enamored with the idea of carbon capture. I know there's another quantum startup, Pinely, that is looking at carbon capture as well. I think there's going to be a lot more focus on carbon capture / quantum computing as we move forward. So I just wanted to point that out as really a topical area of research.
Very, very interesting. And I wrote an article kind of at the beginning of this lockdown 8 weeks ago on my blog, arguing that over this spring and summer we will see some companies succeeding and others kind of questioning their being and their raison d'etre, and I think we're starting to see that with some really big successes. Anthropica that raised funding and is doing a great, really hard work. CQC, everything you just shared, and I think we all know a handful of other companies that are in similar shoes, and we also equally know a couple dozen companies that are really struggling. And if you look at across social media and announcements and conferences and participants, you're also starting to notice some names being less frequently mentioned on those kind of channels, which is really indicative of who's doing well and who's not doing well. So I think it is getting more use case driven, more company driven. But it is still a lot of hard scientific work. Tommaso and I had a conversation about that earlier this week. But an exciting year.
I agree. I think there's a lot of work ahead of us, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for all of us. But it's exciting to just see where the industry is focusing and what hard problems people are choosing to focus on.
Awesome. Yeah, Tommaso, the parting word is yours this week.
Sure. Nice. Thanks. I would like to share how excited we remain, because for us, especially coming from the academic community, if you like, it was great to see how quickly we shifted from an environment where everything was done theoretically, for us at least, not if you're an experimentalist, where we can really think how to use, program, code, and understand these machines by using the machines directly. And for us having the opportunity to do that within Anthropica is just beautiful. So I share your words. This is going to be very exciting, despite the global situation. I think the next years we'll see great advancements in quantum computing, and we are grateful we can play a part in that.
Gotcha, Tommaso. Thank you, Denise. Thank you to all of our viewers. After 4 weeks, we see an increasing number of you joining us, and the three of us getting a lot of emails and LinkedIn messages and other positive feedback. So we are excited about that. Send us your feedback. Ask us, beg us, bribe us to be a guest. We take
Bribe us.
gifts. We take gifts, and this concludes Season 1, Episode 4 of the weekly Quantum World Detangled. You are now detangled.